My name is Adell Amos, and I'm a faculty member, professor of law at the University of Oregon School of Law. I worked at the Department of Interior, first as a staff attorney in the Division of Parks and Wildlife, working primarily on water rights issues for the National Wildlife Refuge System and the National Park System. So I'm primarily familiar with the salmon restoration efforts on the rivers in the Pacific Northwest and to some extent in California as well, but my real focus is in the Oregon and Washington areas, particularly the Columbia River and the Klamath Basin. I've done a lot of work there, and certainly it is a huge priority and the focus of a lot of attention from a lot of different sectors, the state government, the federal government. It's the focus of a lot of NGOs and a lot of tribes in particular, given their cultural and historic relationship with salmon. And dams are an important part of that story and those impacts. And while not the only thing that impacts salmon, the presence of significant dams in the major migration routes of salmon has certainly been the focus of a lot of attention. So, in terms of my work experience, the one that I've worked on most directly is still in proposal stage, which is the proposal to remove the 3 Pacific Core dams on the Klamath River, which, if it ends up coming to fruition, will be the largest dam removal project in U.S. history for sure, and probably ever, in terms of bringing those 3 facilities out, which are the 3 southernmost blocks to migration for salmon up the Klamath system. I think that given the dynamics of the Klamath Basin in particular and the Klamath River, given those dynamics, there's a relatively strong chance that we'll see the removal of those facilities on the Klamath River. And if that happens, it would be the largest in U.S. history. These particular facilities went through a relicensing process through the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And it's through that relicensing process that some terms and conditions were set on the new license for those facilities. And those terms and conditions required the installation of fish ladders, fish passage structures to facilitate upstream migration of the salmon. And ultimately, the cost and the expense of those conditions that were put on the license made the economic and financial incentive to continue to generate hydropower at those facilities sort of a different calculation. And then given the larger dynamics in the Klamath Basin, once that question was opened up, the question of the continued economic viability of hydropower production at those facilities, given the cost of putting in the required fish passage structures, I think once that question was opened up, it was one of the key triggering events for a larger settlement effort of the whole Klamath Basin, the water rights issues that have been pending for a long time in that basin. So we don't know yet for sure whether it's going to happen, but it did sort of set us on a different course in the Klamath Basin than we had been on in terms of thinking about upstream migration for salmon. My hope and the way that I teach river restoration is just to see it as river restoration and returning these amazing systems to as natural a condition as we can for the whole ecosystem that is associated with that and all the benefits that derive from that. Salmon is a key component of that and not one to be underestimated, and has been an important driver in creating the political and the social impetus to engage in river restoration, but it's bigger in some ways than salmon. For those folks who spend a lot of time on rivers and who appreciate what they bring, I think the beauty and the power of a river is an impressive thing and one that is worth protecting.